From a respectful handshake at the end of a match to a game-changing foul in the final seconds, the world of sports is just full of these moments that make us cheer and, well, others that make us question everything. So let's dive into this whole spectrum of behavior and really unpack the ethics of the game.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? It's such a fine line, and every athlete, every coach, every fan has to think about it. What's the thing that separates a brilliant tactical move from just a dirty play? That's what we're here to figure out. Just look at a hard tackle like this, right in the heat of the moment. Is it a legitimate, hard-nosed attempt to win the ball, or is it deliberate foul play designed to take the other player out? This one image just perfectly captures that whole debate, that tension between playing fair and that overwhelming desire to win no matter what. Okay, so to even start to figure out where that line is, we first have to establish the ideal. Let's begin with the concept that all sport is supposedly built on, the spirit of the game. At the very core of this is the idea of sportsmanship. And what's really key here is that it's not just about following the written rules. It's about embodying the spirit of the game. Fairness, respect, and grace, whether you win or you lose. We see this stuff in action all the time. It's that simple, respectful handshake after a grueling match. It's a player kicking the ball out of play when an opponent is injured. These are kind of the unwritten rules, the moments that really uphold the integrity of the game. But of course, it's not always so black and white, is it? Now we're going to enter the gray area, a place where the rules are technically being followed, but the spirit of the game feels, well, a little compromised. And this is where we find gamesmanship. People often call it the dark arts of sport. The idea is really simple. You don't actually break the rules, you just bend them as far as you possibly can to gain some kind of psychological or tactical edge. And here are some classic examples. That really loud grunt in tennis just as your opponent is hitting the ball. A soccer player taking forever to take a throw-in just to run down the clock. Or how about a cricketer appealing for a catch they know bounced? None of those things are technically illegal, but do they feel fair? That's the whole debate. So here's the fundamental split. Sportsmanship is all about honoring the game itself, while gamesmanship is about exploiting the rulebook for every single advantage you can find. One is trying to uphold the integrity of the competition. The other, well, it's about winning, no matter how cynical it might look. But what happens when athletes move beyond just bending the rules and start to flat out break them? This is where we cross a very clear line into what sociologists call deviance in sport. So deviance is basically any behavior that strays from what's considered acceptable. But what's really interesting is that it's not always negative. You can actually break it down into two very different types. So on one hand, we have positive deviance, which is an overconformity to the ideals of sport. And then on the other, there's negative deviance, which is an underconformity, a deliberate breaking of the rules. Let's dig into that. Positive deviance, surprisingly, often comes from a really good place. It's born from an athlete's intense dedication, that drive to push themselves way beyond all normal limits. But, and this is crucial, there's no intention to harm or cheat. For example, think of an athlete who just refuses to leave the field despite being seriously injured, or someone who overtrains to the point of exhaustion. They are conforming so hard to the idea of giving 110% that their behavior actually becomes abnormal and potentially harmful, even though their intent wasn't malicious at all. Okay, now for the other side of the coin. Negative deviance is what most of us just call cheating. It's a conscious, intentional choice to break the rules to get an unfair advantage, and it always has a detrimental effect on the sport. And the examples here are pretty unambiguous. Taking banned substances, deliberately trying to injure an opponent, or, diving in soccer to unfairly win a penalty and deceive the referee. This is a clear underconformity to the rules, a deliberate choice to operate outside the accepted laws of the sport. So we've walked through this entire spectrum of behavior, but why does putting it into categories like this actually matter? Let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. So here it is, the entire spectrum laid out. It runs all the way from sportsmanship, which is that pure ideal of the game, through the cynical bending of rules we call gamesmanship, all the way to deviance, which can be both a misguided overdedication or just outright cheating. These categories, they give us a framework, a language, to properly analyze and debate the complex stuff we see on our screens every single week. And that really brings us to our final thought. With billions of dollars and global fame on the line, the pressure to win is more intense than it has ever been. It pushes athletes towards gamesmanship and sometimes even deviance. So the big question we're left with is this. In the modern world of commercialized sport, can the true spirit of the game really survive?